find a lot of amateur wrestlers really are introverts, and Brock's an introvert. You know, it was tough to get him to be, you know, one of his problems was with his verbal skills in the initial stages, because you know, you have to be able to speak, you have to have a certain amount of charisma, you know, and he was just being able to really to grasp all of that when he decided to go play pro football.
How crazy is it, though, when a guy says, you know, the lifestyle takes its toll so much on me as a wrestler, I'm going to play football in the NFL because it's easier on my body. How crazy is that?
It's pretty wild, you know, and especially, you know, with what he had already put into the business in terms of his contributions and his investment, he was just about ready, you know, to reap some benefit from that. You know, he wasn't always a box office attraction, and he really was just becoming a box office attraction. So it was hurtful to our company. You know, again, you can't make someone perform for you, even though you have a contract with them.
Did it blindside you when he came to you?
Yes, it was. I mean, it was like, you want to do what? You know, and he said, yes. You know, he said, you know, I did know that he had an opportunity or was contemplating playing pro ball or coming here when he came out of college. We drafted him to come here, and I thought that's really what he wanted, because he said that's what he wanted. But I guess maybe the longing of his athletic career wanted him to try football or whatever, and that's what he's doing.
Vince, do you worry that you throw the bar out there and you tell your guys, let's keep raising the bar? But that bar sometimes is a ladder, and it's a guy like Edge, and he keeps climbing up the ladder higher and higher and higher, and each time he jumps off the ladder, people give a bigger gasp, because you got to keep going up higher and higher.
You mean that literally?
I mean that literally.
Okay, no, we don't do that.
Because, and was that because you scaled back, because you said to yourself, these guys will literally kill themselves in the ring because it's exciting for them, it's why they got into the business?
If you allow themselves, they would definitely unrealistically put their life on the line. And you have to, as a producer, you have to be able to say, wait a minute, I have a vested interest, and again, as a businessman. And again, if you can assume I didn't care about them, which I do, I've become very close to all of these guys. I'm like a father figure to a lot of them, you know, and you have to draw the line. You have to say, no, we're just not doing that anymore.
And it's a huge problem for you now, given what guys do in the ring, because the guys that you were hoping would be your next stars are getting hurt, right? Kurt Angle, right. You know, Lesnar, and you know, Stone Cold, you've already said, is gone now. Right. It's tough to. I mean, if a studio says we're gonna get Tom Cruise and we're gonna have him for the next 40 years, that can happen. But it doesn't seem like you can have a guy now for 40 years because it takes its toll.
It does take its toll, you know, and it's important for us always to have the emerging star, and that's the way our business really has always been. And it's important for the John Cena's to come along now, and the Eddie Guerreros and the Chris Benoits, who've had their injuries as well in the past, but yet they're veterans, you know. But now they have bright futures ahead of them.
You look at two of those guys, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, they both came from WCW.
Yes.
Was it not healthy at one time to have them at least there to produce some talent that you could put on your roster?
Unquestionably, it was healthy to have WCW as a competitor when they were good competitors, yes.
I want to talk to you about the pressure that Cena must feel now to be the next star. WCW and what you were just saying there, and lots more. Maybe you wish you hadn't done the WCW deal. We'll talk about that when OTR returns. Ask you about WCW. I'd have sort of cut you off from that very compelling story during commercial. Actually, I wasn't sorry at all. But WCW, you went out and you bought the competition, right? And that's obviously a business strategy that almost every business has looked at.
Well, no, I didn't buy the competition. I mean, the competition was going out of business.
Right.
Okay. And Ted Turner, which I never thought would ever happen. I thought Ted would always be a competitor of ours. Ted folded his tent with Time Warner in the wrestling business, and then it was like, well, wait a minute, there's this asset sitting there. You know, so yes, I acquired the asset.
Do you wish that the WCW was still alive? I'm not going to say alive and well,
right,
but still alive and there. Because one of the things that you're finding a huge challenge is you have 2 television shows now a week, right? Mm-hmm. That you have to staff with superstars.
Right.
And it's tough to get that many. But if the other guys are still competing, you can draw people from their roster. And we already mentioned Guerrero and Benoit.
Sure. It is more difficult, without exception.
Do you wish maybe they were still around?
Yes, I do.
And because there's talk, right, that Turner wants to come back and wants to get back into the business?
I would doubt that very seriously, you know, at least not on this level. You know, if he wants to get back in the business, like a TNA, I think it's called, level, certainly anyone could do that. To get back in the business on this level, the startup costs are extraordinary. And as Ted found out, you know, I mean, this is not just a fly-by-night kind of a investment, you know, and you don't always have a return on your investment, nor did Ted have a return really on WCW. So And the cost continues to escalate each and every year because we invest more in our product. You see more of it on the screen. You see more of it at live events. When you compete on that level, the cost is astronomical to come into this business.
How worried are you about the injection of new talent? Because the SmackDown roster, for instance, most would say is thin, and the ratings, I think, have reflected that. How concerned are you about generating new, big superstars that the public wants?
I'm always concerned about that. I think that with Eddie Guerrero and John Cena as being anchors, really, and Kurt Angle as well, a healthy Kurt Angle, being anchors for the SmackDown brand, that's a really good base to build upon. And we will do that. We'll build upon new stars. There'll be a number of them coming out to SmackDown.
Well, you're talking about new stars. You mentioned John Cena. How about an old star, Hulk Hogan? Because his time has come and gone once again with the WWE. How many times is that? Where he's here, he's not here, he's retired, he's not retired. I mean, you mentioned in the last show that you actually got a phone call from him saying, hey, Brian,
I didn't get the phone call. It was for someone else to relay a message from him.
That's because we can't get through. I called you yesterday. I never heard back from you, Vince.
I always get back to my phone calls, each and every one of them. But as far as Hogan's concerned, I would think that Hogan would be a candidate for perhaps this year's Hall of Fame. We're going to be out in WrestleMania. It's going to be in Los Angeles this coming year. So I mean, I think that.
Is it done with you guys, you and Hulk? Do you think as a guy on your roster?
Other than the exceptional one-off type thing, I think it definitely is, because again, it's like you consider the investment factor. Hogan's a big star. If you bring him back, he's going to want to have a lot of time, for his stardom and everything. And it's no different than why you don't see Mr. McMahon, my character, on television anymore. I much prefer the other side of the camera anyhow, in producing and directing and working with talent and motivating them. Because if my character is out there as a talent, what's the return on investment? I'm 58 years old. I mean, going through the motions of what I would be doing in the ring, the physicality, I enjoy that, but I mean, what's the return on investment? You get one pay-per-view out of it, and no live events. So
take us back to Hulk, Vince.
Yep.
People want to know what happened last time. Why did he leave?
Hogan, I think, was pretty basic. He did not like his payoff at WrestleMania and said that was it.
Didn't want to do the job?
I don't think that was it so much. Again, I think it was a monetary issue. He's a businessman.
Was he supposed to job the Big Show and he didn't want to do it? Because he has the reputation, right, of doing what's good for Hulk. And, you certainly can't condemn him from the aspect that he's built himself, this massive franchise called Hulk Hogan. But sure, he has a reputation in the business of not doing for others what they did for him.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think that's deserved, unquestionably. Sometimes it's not deserved.
Is that what happens with him, or what happened with him with Big Show?
I don't recall that incident, quite frankly. It could very well have been.
When guys say they don't recall on the witness stand, people just think they don't want to answer the
question.
Yeah,
I know, but I just don't recall.
Unfortunately, this isn't the witness stand.
Right.
So Hulk could have limited representation in your company, but his job as a big star is gone. How about Goldberg?
Again, Goldberg had a tremendous impact. When he came, he was here for a year. We knew that it was a pricey situation when he came over.
I heard you didn't like his contract from the time you signed him. Is that true?
No, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't have signed it. It was a bit of a risk, as it were, but nonetheless, his contributions were everything that we thought they would be.
So you got what you wanted, what you hoped for out of Goldberg?
I think
because
so.
He was supposed to be a guy who would really inject a lot of life in the company.
Yes, and he did, and again, it was a one-year deal, and we, again, reserved the right to open the door if Bill would ever want to come back, and we'd want him back, to do some one-off stuff. I don't think Bill doesn't enjoy the day-to-day aspects of the business, in terms of being on the road and things of that nature. And again, it's an investment factor. Who are you going to invest your money in? Someone who's, doesn't enjoy it and doesn't want to contribute a full-time schedule, or some up-and-coming star who you can get your investment out of. So it becomes a business decision.
See, I'm interested because you talk about Goldberg and you talk about Brock, about how they found the lifestyle difficult. Is part of that because they're not wrestlers? They're guys who came from something else to become wrestlers. That the guys who understand and lived and breathed and grew up with wrestling understand that it's not, once a week. Right. It's 3-4 times a week, and this is the commitment you got to bring.
I think that's fair. Again, I think that, the ones that have the longevity here, are the individuals who grow up as a child loving and emulating and wanting to be a superstar in the WWE.
We're going to take a break. I want to talk about steroids because I want to talk to you about how they relate to baseball and what you would do with Barry Bonds. McMahon, you don't watch Off the Record even though we send you our tapes on a daily basis. You don't know that we've been critical of Bud Selig. We don't think he's doing a great job as commissioner of baseball. How many suits you got?
Not that many.
Not enough to be the commissioner? I think you do. I think you're dodging. If I made you commissioner of baseball right now, how would you handle Barry Bonds and the stigma that he has to deal with right now, which is Babe Ruth talent, Babe Ruth statistics, but people look at him and say, he's juiced.
I don't know. I think that the commissioner of baseball, and it depends on how seriously you take baseball, how seriously you take sport.
I imagine he probably takes it pretty seriously.
Well, I think he should, but I think that he, in all likelihood, is somewhat conflicted, giving his background as an owner and whatever. I think the commissioner of baseball is someone who probably loves the sport, loves the game itself, but someone who has impeccable integrity in the past, and someone who would look at this from an objective standpoint and do the right thing, for the integrity of the sport. And I think that's what the commissioner of baseball really, I think that's more than anything else, more than contracts with networks and things of that nature. I think the commissioner of baseball, in all likelihood, is charged with that, the integrity of the sport.
So what do you do with Barry Bonds? Because until someone takes a vial and they watch him test it and they say he's clean or he's not or whatever, people don't know what to make of this guy. And you've, of course, you've dealt with, the steroid stigma for a long, long time.
Well, I think there are a lot of ways to skin a cat. If you're commissioner of baseball, I think I would certainly call Barry Bonds, not just to the stand, but I would call him to the testing facility and say, okay, now we're going to test you, and we're going to test you for the integrity of the sport and for your own personal integrity. And if he refuses testing, then you take action. If he doesn't refuse and he passes the test, then you can say to the rest of the world, hey, look, this guy is everything that he says he is, and he's clean, so get off his keister.
How do you deal with your own roster from that standpoint?
From a standpoint of steroids?
Yes.
We don't test anymore.
Why?
Well, it's expensive, which is a bit of a cop-out because I could afford it these days.
I was going to mention that.
Thank you.
No, then it was a cop-out.
Oh. But I think the reason we don't test for steroids, we're performers, we're entertainers. We're not cheating anyone. If we're cheating anyone, we're cheating ourselves. Unlike baseball or the Olympics or something like that, because when you use steroids, that's an advantage. You're cheating. There's no doubt about it. And if Barry Bonds is using them, he's cheating. I'm not saying that he is using them, but if he is. So we're not cheating anyone except ourselves if, in fact, we're doing that.
The problem that you have is that if I'm a young guy watching, I want to look like those guys. They look pretty damn good.
Some of them do, some of them don't. We have all different body types and so forth, and a lot of times guys would take steroids not because they want to look good, but because it helps their injuries heal quicker or whatever. That's up to those individuals and their physician, their personal physician. But hopefully we don't have juice heads walking around, and I don't think we do.
You calling me a juice head?
No, I'm not.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
No, I'm not.
FCC is all over some guy's ass. I mean, Howard Stern's dealing with that right now. Even Oprah's dealing. They're not on you.
Shouldn't be.
Are you not dangerous enough now, though? Because they used to be the first guy. Top of the list, hit list. There's Vince McMahon. There's the WWE.
Well, we were wrongfully placed there to begin with. When you think about some of the things we've done.
You love that stuff, right?
I love some of it. I do enjoy controversy, of course. And I'm a fighter. I'm just naturally pugilistic or whatever. I enjoy the fight. But as far as the FCC is concerned, there's nothing about our show now that's really objectionable.
Does that concern you though? Because the thing that WCW, WWF, right?
Right.
And then DX, and then Stone Cold, and all of that, and all of the angles, and all of a sudden, you put them out of business, and you guys put $1 billion in your pocket. So it was the danger that made you so special, and now no one's concerned about the danger. Doesn't that concern you?
Again, when you're competing, as we were burning the candle at both ends. So was Turner. It was a question of who was going to burn out the quickest. Since we understand the business, we thought they would, and they did.
Do you miss that time? The Renegade? I mean, you guys really, talk about walking the line. You cross the line all the time. Do you miss that time?
No, I enjoyed the time. I enjoy all the times. I enjoy this time. I enjoy all the times of my life, whatever it may be. But I think that we can have a better business, by having intricate stories, by having better athletes, by having better human beings on our roster.
You know what you're talking like? You're not talking like a parent. You're talking like a grandparent, which is a beautiful segue to this email for you. Hey, Vince, how does it feel to be a grandfather?
It's so wonderful. Again, I'm the luckiest man in the world. No one comes close to me. Again, it's like I have a healthy, a business, that I love and passionate about. I have family members around me that are healthy and in the business as well. I have a grandson now. I mean, it's like, come on, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I couldn't complain about anything, and I shouldn't.
Grandson's name, by the way, is we welcome Vince McMahon back off the record.
Declan. It's an Irish name.
And a good Irish name.
Oh,
Very
yes.
nice. And a good Irishman you are for doing off the record.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a couple of names, and I'll throw them out there, and you just give me a reaction.
Okay.
Kevin Nash.
Good guy. Sense of humor.
Scott Hall.
I guess maybe the thing that comes to Scott when you first meet is drugs, and that's unfortunate, because he kind of threw his career away and his life away because of drugs.
Lex Luger.
A bit of an egotist.
Sting.
Don't know him at all. I've had just a couple of telephone conversations.
He's going to come back?
I doubt he'll come back to our organization. Again, the investment factor. I'd rather invest in younger individuals.
Paul Heyman.
Clever.
Really clever?
Clever.
Just going to let that sink in for a
Right.
second. You are in Southern Ontario because you're talking about your next your pay-per-view in August. Tell me about it. SummerSlam.
SummerSlam, August 15 at the Air Canada Centre. We've had 2 WrestleManias in Toronto, and this is the first opportunity to have a SummerSlam, and it's the biggest event we do all summer long, so it really should be exciting.
What's next for your business? Because, corporations, they got to grow,
Right.
or they're dying, right?
I agree with
How
that.
do you grow your business?
We grow our business on an international basis. We grow our business with, we have a SVOD platform now called 24/7 that we're introducing, which allows us to go back and watch the Bret Hart matches and some of the old timers, not that Bret's an old timer.
You trying to get over with the Canadian audience here,
No,
Vince
no, no,
McMahon?
no.
I think you are.
Well, maybe I am a little bit. I try to get over with every audience.
Right.
And sometimes I fail miserably.
That must be a challenge in Thailand.
Yeah.
Mention a great Thai wrestler.
No, you get over in different ways. But to me, this 24/7 allows us to go back and take a look at all of the archival footage and so forth that we have, and and some of the marketing of some of the old timers, Superstar, Billy Graham, Bruno Sammartino, Ivan Putski, all those wonderful.
That sounds awesome,
Yeah.
Vince. I got to cut you off, but I got to say thank you very much. You're a gentleman, and I respect the fact that you'll come here and sit and talk about wrestling and life with us. Vince McMahon, thank you.
My pleasure.